have a very special guest for you tonight.
Hello, we've been expecting you.
This is not a test. Your government and corporate overlords have implemented new measures for your own health and safety. We are just following orders.
Everything is going to be fine.
I'd like to introduce...
Welcome everyone to another special If by Whiskey. I'm Mark. Jake is in a storm with his wife and children. They are safe, but they are powerless. But they have power. It's weird. They're not powerless, but they're without power. Long story, but they're safe. So it's my pleasure to introduce the great Jason Rink, acclaimed documentarian for our side, which if there's not really a side, but the correct side, the side that's right. Because Ron Paul was right, Jason?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, man.
Welcome, man. Tell us about yourself. Welcome so much. Thank you so much for joining, man. I'm so grateful that you're here today.
Well, I'm glad I could be on and hold up the other side when your co-host is gone. You know, it's like, all right, fine. We'll just roll.
Almost all three of us didn't make it. I swear to God, we almost canceled all three of us.
So yeah, no, I'm doing good, man. Yeah, I'm down here in Austin, Texas, and been down here about 15, 16 years now, but I'm a Midwestern boy, grew up in Ohio, and got involved in the Ron Paul campaign back in 2007 in Ohio. That was when I got sucked into all of this whole world of politics. You know, I was just a normie before that. And
sorry, man. I'm sorry you got into it.
Yeah, Ron Paul changed my life, you know, for the better, I would say. I don't know that being a political junkie is necessarily for the better, but you know how it is, man. It's like in The Godfather, where it's like, I try to get out, but they keep pulling me back in. You know, it's like that's how it feels with politics. You try to sign off. You're like, all right, I've done my duty. I leave it to you, and then next thing you know, you're surfing Twitter. You know, 12 hours.
It's
a day.
funny you mentioned Godfather because, like, we talk about documentaries. You've done documentaries. I actually showed my girlfriend the best documentary about the U.S. government. It was called The Sopranos. It was like it was so good, you know, theft, extortion, racketeering.
It's
you name it.
Quite an allegory there. Yeah.
It was like literally, I remember showing her this. I'm like, this is the government. Just as she's watching it the whole time, I'm like, this is what your government does. They call this part taxes. This is what your government does. They call it law and order. This is what you're, you know, it's like watching that. It's great.
Yeah.
So welcome again, man. So yesterday I met you at the Ron Paul barbecue, first of all. So if I may share just a little bit about, my dad donated to Ron Paul like in the 80s and like even in the 70s. So my dad was like, he had the Triangle New World Order book and all that stuff. He was all up in all that stuff. We didn't really know too much about it. So it was kind of like weird because like no one else had that book, right? Like 1 out of every 100 people had that book. But anyway, I meet you. I was all in. I bought the VIP thing because I am so interested in this message of liberty. And I'm at this point, be the liberty you want to see. I'm done with the whole politics stuff, but people like yourself have such great messages about how to live a liberty filled life and how to oppose it and how to find it and where to find patterns and all that. So I'm just grateful to have you on. Last night I had Dan McKnight on in the light of 2 Iowan National Guardsmen and 1 in DC that were shot and killed. You know, RIP, rest in peace. Sorry to everyone for their loss. This should never happen in Syria. What are National Guardsmen doing in Syria? So you with nullification, I'd love for you to share a little bit about your start in that, your first documentary about the nullification. I do have a couple clips I'll play, but I'd love to hear a little bit about how you got started, how it how it went in and then it's blossomed.
Yeah. Well, listen, my start's kind of funny because I was working in commercial banking. I was at Chase Bank. I was in equipment finance back in 2007, and I'd spent 8 years in commercial banking and was not in production at all. And I got involved in Ron Paul. And like back then, this is, 2007. It's like you found Ron Paul through like Googling, you would see a clip on the Alex Jones show or whatever. Like you would stumble across Ron Paul.
Craigslist.
Yeah, who knows? It's like, see some old guy who's got a bumper sticker from the 80s, you know what I mean, rolling around, because once you get into the Ron Paul movement, you don't really leave, in your heart. And so I heard Ron Paul and I was like, man, this guy makes a lot of sense. And, I literally was like, this guy's running for president. That's interesting. And then I heard there was these things called meetups back then. I was like, I wonder if there's one in Columbus, Ohio, which is where I was. And nobody had started a meetup. And I was like, what do you got to do to start a meetup? I was like, oh, it's like $8. I'm like, okay, I got $8. I guess I'll start the Ron Paul meetup in Columbus, Ohio. So I had no idea what I was doing. Lo and behold, like, I think that meetup group ended up growing to like 1,000 people. We didn't have 1,000 people at meetings, but like we would have 100, we'd have a lot of people were coming out. We were doing these weekly meetings and organizing sine waves for Ron Paul and doing all the crazy stuff that happened back then. If you want to really see what the Ron Paul movement was like back then, there's a great movie called For Liberty. I think it's on YouTube, and it's a great time capsule of what was happening back then. But I just found myself swept up into this thing, and I'm like grassroots organizing, and I'm like reading all about Austrian economics, and I'm reading all of the old school like libertarian stuff, and I'm learning it. And then I'm like trying to teach people about it, in this group. We're talking about how to talk about Ron Paul when you're meeting people. And we did all sorts of stuff. I mean, I remember there was an Amish guy in the group, or Mennonite or whatever, and he had this big barn, and he was like, I want to put a Ron Paul for president sign on his barn. And it was like literally, I don't know, 20, 30 feet, plywood. He's got the cherry picker. We're doing that, sine waves, Google Ron Paul. And so the next thing I know is after Ron Paul drops out and we all cried, started this organization called the Ohio Liberty Council. And this sort of rolled into the Tea Party. If people back then will remember, the Ron Paul movement happened. The Tea Party in many ways was birthed out of that. And, but the Tea Party was quickly overtaken by the GOP. It
was hijacked by the Koch brothers very quickly. They started funding a lot of the Tea Party stuff.
Exactly. And the Ron Paulers got very moved aside. Now, Thomas Massey wouldn't be in Congress if it weren't for that period of time. And Rand Paul, that's all like fruit. Justin Amash, when he went there.
Speaking of what's up with Kentucky? What's in that water? What do they got there, man?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Decent players, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, it's like the movement spawned a lot of people. And what's interesting is a lot of those people, we were at the Ron Paul barbecue. There's people I hadn't seen in a decade there, or more. And it's interesting to see what people are up to. Like there's people who are professionally into politics as a result of it. There's people who are doing all sorts of interesting things that they're still carrying out the message in some way. And so, but yeah, long story short,
look, Kane, I mean, from WWE fame, he's the mayor of Knox County, right?
Mm-hmm.
So right there alone, we've got weird crossovers. And it did. Look, I've never met Dave Smith, for example, and some of the others. I met Scott Horton before. I met him at Freedom Fest, but so many of you amazing. And when I say you amazing, I just mean the liberty minded is the amazingness. It seemed like a class reunion.
Totally.
At the barbecue. Yeah, it felt really
totally
like,
that way.
oh my God, I haven't seen you in like 5 years, Oh my gosh,
yeah.
It was
yeah. And dude, we're gonna go all over the map here, but just a quick plug for, it is costly to cough up the VIP at some of these things, but
you have no idea, sir. Well, yeah, you do.
Yeah, but in my opinion, when you get older anyway, and maybe you have, maybe you don't have more disposable income. It depends. But at the end of the day, those type of events are some of the best times to go that extra mile, because you get to meet a lot of great people. You get to network. If you're trying to produce or create something in this space, like, you're doing yourself no favors by just being like the regular attendee. And I know some people are like, this sucks. It's $1,000 or whatever. And it's like, well, I wanted to support the organization, as well. Like it was for moving the liberty movement forward and supporting Ron Paul. And so it's a great way to get connected with people, reconnect with people, stay connected with people. And so, I go back.
And that was with Young American for Liberty, right? YAL?
Yeah. Jeff Frazee.
So
I met Jeff
Jeff
in 2007, 2008 during Ron Paul's first run,
Very cool. Yeah.
it's just interesting. And yeah, now
And for everybody in our audience, Jeff runs YAL kind of. So
Yeah.
just so everybody knows.
Yeah, and it's funny now. Me and you are on the big high roller donor list, right? You're probably getting all the mailings, and it's like little do they know we're just struggling working class people over here.
Man, I still have not monetized a penny. I've been doing this for 5 years. I've probably done 250 episodes, 500 hours. I talked to people like Michael Jackson's oldest nephew about the allegations for 3 hours.
Yeah,
it's like I've been lucky, but I just haven't caught that traction, and that takes time. You got to earn it. I totally get it, but. This is my story. I was at Freedom Fest and I knew about Ron Paul's barbecue. And I'm like, it was either going to be VI pay or bust. It wasn't going to be, I'm not going to do a half-ass to your point, right? Like you're not going to pay $200 to like, just be within reach of everyone and watch everybody from the fence. You know what I mean? Like just go all in. I'm with Spike Cohen and Tasha. We're at the banquet at Freedom Fest. And I'm like, I'm on the thing. I'm like, dude, just hit send. Just hit send. I can't hit it. I can't spend $1,000. So he ended up hitting the button for me. I'm like, dude, did it. Woo. I'm like voluntarism at its best. I gave him
funny. He had to move you over the line.
Consent to do it.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, it's great. It's a great community. And again, when it comes to the like, where am I on the libertarian spectrum? It's like, I'm a Ron Pauler at heart. And we could talk about, we'll get into what's going on in the liberty movement and whatnot, and what that even means. But the big thing for me was I got pushed to a point of decision. This is leading up to nullification, which is where we started this conversation. Is I was speaking at End the Fed rallies. Okay, and then we had a big event. So on the weekends, I'm speaking at End the Fed rallies. During the week, I'm going into Chase Bank. Right. I survived the great collapse of 2008.
You're working for the Fed.
Oh yeah, totally. 100%. And the funniest thing was when I was learning all this stuff, before I got into banking, I thought all these people were smart finance people. Dude, it's just salespeople. That's all it is. They're selling financial products. None of them know how the Fed works. None of that crap. And I'm like a college dropout. I don't have an MBA. I was working at Chase with a lot of MBAs. Doesn't matter how I managed to get in there. But I was like, I'm the only person who knows how the Fed works in this whole company, except for the guys at the top. They know because it's the big grift that they're like, yeah, we know how it works.
They're the ones lobbying to get the free money to hand out at higher rates. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but your standard bankers and even high level people working with businesses or whatever. They don't know any of this crap.
Has no clue how the Fed functions at all.
No idea. And so I'm in the belly of the beast, and I'm speaking at the Fed rallies, and then we threw this 10th Amendment rally at the Capitol in Columbus, Ohio. Judge Napolitano was a speaker. I was a speaker there. There's different people there, and I met Judge Napolitano. And
very cool. I like to meet him. He seems like a straight up. He just seems like a pretty straight up guy.
He's a good hang. Let's put it that way. And
I bet.
And so he went back to. He was a Fox News contributor back then. Right. And this is actually my first kind of cancellation. This is back in 2009. He goes back, and the next thing I know, I'm getting a call from Greta Van Sustren's producer, and they're like, "Hey, we want to have you on the show." And I'm like, "Really?" Like, yeah, you organize this rally, whatever. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll go on. So it's my first media hit, and I talked to the producer beforehand, and they're asking me some questions. And a lot of people don't remember this, but early Tea Party days, the establishment was very skeptical of it because we were sharing a lot with Occupy people back then. It was Ron Paulers, it was Occupy people. Right. It was a very transpartisan
and
thing.
Occupy got broken from the inside out with the identity stuff. They went sex and race and all that stuff. They literally dropped the bomb and blew it up from the inside. This was like a Venn diagram of it just happens to be that these things overlap in your attention span or something.
Yeah, it's financial crisis in the aftermath of that. Tom Woods wrote his great book, Meltdown, all of that. And it's like, so it was a real populist movement is how it started. And then, so I go on Greta Van Susteren thinking it's going to be like a friendly interview, right? But in that pre-interview, the producer asked me about my job. I'm like, oh, well, I work in finance, but I'd like to keep that out of this because I'm just a regular citizen. doing this on my own time. And 3 questions in, she's like, "Do you have a job, sir?" You know, insinuating that like I'm an unemployed activist or organizer or something. And I had to like,
Yeah,
try
you're
to,
Antifa. You're
yeah,
a paid activist, right?
yeah. We're in the shadow of Obama, the community organizer, right? So it's like, who is this guy? Is he a good guy? And I had to like wriggle my way out of that situation. That YouTube clip is still out there if you want to find it, but
I'll look for it. I promise.
I went back to Chase Bank the next morning and they put out a company-wide memo. No unauthorized media appearances. I got my laptop seized. I didn't get fired. They'd put controls on my laptop. And I realized I was at a point of decision. I was like, I can stop doing all this political stuff and just golden handcuffs, great job, overpaid, underworked, all of that. Or I could try to find something I actually want to do with my life. And I had gone to film school. That was my original path.
Wait a minute. You want purpose and meaning? What's wrong with you?
Yeah, I know. It's screwed up, dude. And so I decided to leave, and I left like 3 months later, and I was recruited to be the executive director of an organization down here in Austin, Texas. And it was a brand new organization, and I kind of had a full bank account, and I was like, what do I want to do? I was like, I want to make media. I want to make content. And so Nullification was the first documentary I ever made. I sponsored a tour called Nullify Now with the 10th Amendment Center. Michael Bolden is a friend of mine. We go way back. And I ended up being a speaker on that tour and then just filming interviews with all the people. And I was like, I guess this is how you make a movie. And I made a movie. And, you know, it was the first thing I ever did. Didn't know what I was doing. Submitted it to Freedom Fest, Anthem Film Festival, won a couple of awards. And I was like, oh, maybe I'm okay at this. You know, maybe I can get better. And that's really where it all started. And
what year was the Freedom Fest, if you don't mind me asking? Because that had to have been when they were paying 12 Bitcoin for a Dr. Pepper.
It was probably, yeah, it was 2011, I think. It was 2011.
Oh, wow. I mean, just think about the times back then. 2011 and now with Freedom Fest, Bitcoin, and all the crypto, all the independent stuff, the precious metals, everything. Anyway, go ahead, please continue. I just look at the time frame and how quickly we accelerate, or how this just exponentially changes in such a dramatic way.
Yeah, it was you know, early days. I think it might have been 2012, but I'm close. And so. Yeah. So, and I met Tom Woods on the Nullify Now tour because he was a speaker at most of the cities. So me and Tom became friends. I was like, look, I want to make a film about, he wrote a book called Nullification. And, you know, for your audience, maybe they know, but, you know, nullification is the idea that the states could push back against the federal government, you know, unconstitutional laws. And, you know, it's interesting because nullification is one of those things where the left and the right will gravitate towards it depending on who's in office, honestly. You know,
well, yeah, my power. It's my king. I don't want kings except my king.
Yeah. So there's a hope that I've had that like the left will like really embrace nullification. They're like, you know, oh, Trump's a fascist, and we're going to do our own thing here at the state level. And it's like, if you can get that to sort of break through on a transpartisan side, then it's actually awesome, because it's like, yeah, hey, Texas is going to be Texas, and California is going to be California, and it's going to be laboratories of liberty. And, you know, we'll see who fails, you know. So
the problem is we need people to do that, Jason, and all we have is government.
Yeah, it's true. So, you know, but yeah, that nullification, I made that film when I didn't know what I was doing. And I do kind of know what I'm doing now, but it was my first foray into being a filmmaker, and it was totally birthed out of my experiences in the Ron Paul movement.
Well, speaking of which, sir, I have a Michael Bolton clip I just want to play from Nullification. I clipped 2 of Michael Bolton's, if I may. So you mentioned you're friends with him still?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like
or you know,
we're brothers. You know, we've spent a lot of time together. And he and I parted ways a little bit on Trump, you know, because I voted for Trump in this last go round and in 2020. But
I voted for him twice in 16 and 20, but not 24. So,
but yeah,
I voted no to
Bolden
the
is
first
a
one.
great guy, and you know, I haven't seen him in a few years, but yeah, like we spent a lot of time on the road, and he's a great dude. I love what he's been up to for all of these years. So
Awesome. I'm going to set this clip up very quickly, only because it's very short. But basically, I put this exact tweet out. I put this exact post in the Boomer social network known as Facebook, and you will not imagine the backlash that I got. Let me play a little Michael Bolden. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, just the first point. Thank you, sir.
So there are a few core beliefs that drive me in what I do with the 10th Amendment Center. And they're very, very simple. Rights are not granted to us by government. They are ours by the nature of our birth, of being human.
that's controversial.
Man, hair on my arm stood up. Well, I take it a step further because like I'm actually what's called an anti-theist. I'm not an atheist, but I have a challenge with the institutionalization of anything, to be honest.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think that the institutionalization of one's direct faith has been corrupted and bastardized. So it's a very different way to look at it. So Christianity for me is not necessarily true or not true. It's just, it's nuanced. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But I always say, I take it a step further. My grants are from birth, not even from God or government. They're neither. They are at my birth because I'm conscious of that. You know what I mean? Like that's where I'm at. So I'm even more devout about that. But I think, are you a man of faith? I think you have.
Well, yeah, I was a Baptist pastor for several years.
Yeah, you were a pastor, right? So I'd love to hear your thoughts about that clip because it's such
yeah. You know, and it's so the way that Bolden puts that together, I mean, it's like I can't argue with that in any way, and it's like, the way that I would define actually human being is that we are one part human, which is our flesh and bone, and one part being, which is that which is beyond the material, like our
soul
consciousness, our soul, all of that, right? Yeah. And so, I mean, like, dude, I'm no longer a pastor, and some of that has to do with some of the things that I changed my mind on about the institutionalization of the faith. This is a side tangent, but yeah,
absolutely. And look, feel free to talk about that because once again, these are we come across things in our lives that have a libertarian. Everything has to be viewed from certain perspectives. So this does filter the way we continue our life, the way we create relationships, and everything. So
yeah, I actually co-founded an organization called Libertarian Christians, which is run by a guy named Norman Horn and Doug Stewart.
I do work with Libertarian Christian Institute with Jacob Winograd and.
Yeah. So I was one of the founding members of that organization. I'm no longer a part of that organization. I asked them, I said, hey, I think you guys should remove me from the board. This was when I was going through the throes of my cancellation. What I was going on with, I did a film on Nick Fuentes. I was at January 6th. And I was like, look, I don't want some of what's going on in my world to infiltrate or color the libertarian Christianness of what's going on with what you guys are doing. And so I stepped away at that point. Like it was fine. Like I was happy to do it. Yeah. I asked them to do it.
You didn't want to be the anchor. Like you clearly didn't want to be to get targeted because of what you were going through. That's totally.
Yeah. I wanted to protect the organization. And frankly, I've moved. I call myself a philosophical libertarian and like a spiritual libertarian in a lot of ways. I call myself a Ron Pauler really, but because a lot
labels
of the
are tough anyway. Come on, it's like so dumb.
I think a lot of what's happening in the libertarian movement and some of the fracturing that's happening has a little bit to do with reckoning with power as a thing that exists, frankly. And, I think a lot of what I think we've seen happen over the last, decade is a reorienting about understanding like what to do with power, because I think when I go back to my early days of libertarianism, I was more of like an agorist and I was more of a like, hey, it's the whole joke. libertarians will get in charge and leave you alone. And it's like, yeah, the problem is that power exists and there are those who will attempt to seize it. And so there's a domain of that, which is that power has to be sort of protected and locked down in a way. And it's sometimes difficult to see the path for a libertarian, you know, I don't want to say utopia, but like,
I think it is, because there's no purity here. I mean, it's impossible to be pure anything. I mean, there's friction in the world. There's gravity. There, you know what I mean? There's forces that act upon us on all sides.
Yeah.
Human.
Yeah. So I think at the center of a lot of discussion and a lot of disagreement about things, I think people should take a step back and be talking more about just the nature of power, and that power exists. What is power? What is force? And and then if we want to get into almost the spiritual aspect of it, is the question of, and this is where I think those who maybe aren't as God-centric or are atheist or anti-theist or whatever you would put a label on it, is that, is there a corrupt nature of man that, you know, has to be sort of, that we have to orientate around or we have to grapple with? And I think even those, you can even look at, you know, like people who've tried to set up sort of libertarian-esque societies, right? And it's like, well, there's still trouble and there's still problems because we're grappling with the nature of man. Not that libertarians would say that's not true. You know, many pure libertarians are going to be like, yeah, we privatize all that stuff and that's how we deal with everything. Totally get that. But I think that at the foundation of a lot of what we're talking, I think we're talking downstream a lot of times of what we really need to be talking about, which is sort of like the nature of man, the nature of evil, the nature of power, which I think are more important topics to sort of grapple with sometimes.
And I think the Enlightenment is really where that started getting grappled with, is the nature of man having this other side is, you know, the power corrupts, right? I mean, and it is the nature of it. It's just like what's that called? It's like a feature, not a bug almost, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like weird.
Yeah. And, you know, when you start wading into all these, you know, different streams, you know, it's like, hey, do I love Trump's ICE posting like hype videos about like kicking people out of the country? Like, I don't love that. I also don't love the implications of like 10 million people being let into the country and the social, you know, the social welfare programs that, and, you know, all of the implications of that. And it's like, so we grapple with the question of how do you sort of reset? How do you restart? Like, is there a world where you can't use force to set? And I'm just using that as an example, right? But it's like the improper use of force has created many of the circumstances that we currently face on a daily basis that inhibit our freedom. And
I mean, look, blowback, just using Ron Paul's own words, blowback by itself is us stepping on other people's necks in their territory created a, you know, return.
So there's a question of like the use of force to sort of reset the clock or to reset the table, or are we in a situation where we're like, oh, we have the conditions that we have now and we have to use libertarian means to try to forge a more free society forward out of a mess that's been generated in a corrupt and forceful way. I'm not saying I have any answers to this. And by the way, I have
one answer. Get 2A. Let's be honest. If everyone's armed, this shit ain't happening, man. People aren't getting out. People are not stepping over their skis. They're not getting outside of their comfort zone and confrontation. They're like, this is the human nature. Conflict happens. It's conflict resolution, right? So like, I agree. There needs to be a force that needs to be cleaned up. The people need to actually take the streets and do this on their own at this point. It cannot be this centralized piece, the federal pole ice force, you know? That's just, you know, that's just my
and this brings us back to nullification, frankly, because you can imagine a nation of armed private citizens and state governments that were more, and communities, by the way, let's bring it even further, right? If we could reorient our cities and our states to be more in line with constitutional, like in freedom principles, and then we had leadership that understood nullification, that said, listen, the borders of this state, we could treat this differently than the rest of it. We can ignore that. And we have a National Guard and sheriffs and a governor that's like, yeah, no, flips the bird to the federal government, ready to stand its ground, ready to say, hey, listen, yeah, take our federal funding. It's fine because we actually, the last 10 years, have set up our own gold reserve and Bitcoin reserve. And we actually don't need your money. Go ahead and take that back and we'll handle this. If that mentality spread and grew, I think that's the most libertarian path back towards reforming the thing at the top. And what we do is we often are so hyper-focused on, because the federal government is so overgrown and so powerful and so operating beyond its means, we focus on that like, hey, if we can fix this, then we can kind of fix everything else. And it's like, unfortunately, the bad news is we've got to take a much more difficult path, which is to reform from the ground up and create these sort of borders of liberty at a state by state level. And, and
almost, I'd argue even at a smaller level, like
yes,
where I've come to is a point, that word subsidiarity, right? I mean, that's really where it's at. So just for our audience, subsidiarity means the most smallest power government part needed for the most smallest task. So don't give the federal government your local water rights. Like that has nothing to do with them, for example. Like, keep it as local and close to the actual community as possible. That should keep it small, also manage it best for the resources you do have.
Well, and I see, Jasonomics in the chat there, secession.
Yeah. He's my old co-host, Jason. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, these are real conversations that we need to have. And it's like, most of us can see that, like, boy, we're really far from having those conversations. So,
we've had Jason Fry. So Jason and I have had Jason Fry on individually and together, I think. He's part of Texit and all, he's written the national divorce and stuff. So you might
I may have met Jason before, actually.
Texas. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So and he was in Forge and Fire. He makes knives and stuff. It's like so cool.
Awesome.
So
I want one. Drop a link. Okay. I'm asking him to promote, to push his
I'll
stuff.
connect. You know what? I'll connect you too. How about that?
Yeah, cool.
He'd love to do it. Yeah. You're in Texas. Maybe you guys can have a dinner and he can present it to you.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty
awesome.
Cool.
So we've been a little over the map, but like,
I still
believe nullification. I still believe that's the true way, the true path. And I think that in the last several years, some of us have said, yeah, we're like at a red alert emergency on the federal level. And like, is there a way to sort of like, stop the bleeding temporarily? And I think most of what we're doing is just buying time, frankly.
Yeah. We're just printing ourselves into devaluation. I mean, it's literally just kicking the can down the road, it seems.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you sort of touched on this. I don't know if it was before we got started or not, but like, I did have a realization, because I was active in politics. I was running this nonprofit until about, 2015, 2016. I worked in production. I ended up working on Rand Paul, a PAC for Rand Paul to get him. He was running in the 2016 election in the primaries against Trump. And I did a bunch of video work, me and a team, to try to get Rand, as competitive. And once he dropped out, I was like, I actually need to go make some real money. And I decided to go focus on, my own production company and building my commercial production company and not working with a lot of nonprofits and liberty groups because there wasn't a lot of money there. And
that is a grind. For people who do not know, nonprofit work sucks. It's probably the worst job to have.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, and I love I have a lot of nonprofit homies. You're doing the Lord's work. And it's like, I stepped away from politics and I was like, I'm going to get out of this racket. I'm not going to get involved anymore. And I was going to just sort of wander away into the background. And so I was not really active in I wasn't even like on Twitter or whatever in like 2016, 2017. The last Freedom Fest I went to in this period was actually 2015, and Trump spoke there. I don't know if people remember this, but he was running. He was in the primary, and I remember it was like in July in Vegas. I remember I was standing next to Jeffrey Tucker, and there was like 800 people in a room, and Trump.
You
was
know
speaking.
Jeffrey Tucker? Oh my gosh, I've been dying to talk to him during COVID, and he doesn't do interviews at night, so I could never get him. Oh my God, this is amazing. Yeah, go ahead.
I barely know Jeffrey. Like we've met a couple of times.
Amazing.
But
no,
I remember
it's just like bathing in these ideas. Like these brains walk by you and you can feel it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Mark Skousen or Steve, just it's amazing. Anyway,
I just remember the reason it's so vivid in my mind is because we were at Freedom Fest and there was Trump and he was speaking to a room of like 800 people. And it probably was like the smallest room he spoke to for a long time after that. And I remember I just looked over at Tucker because I was kind of like, wait, what? Like, Trump's here? Like, it just was weird. It was bizarre.
Like a surreal moment, right?
Yeah, totally. It was just like, interesting. Trump's at Freedom Fest, right? And he was kind of I don't want to say he was a joke, but a lot of people just didn't think he was going to win the nomination back in the summer of 2015. And so I wasn't involved in the MAGA movement then. I voted for Gary Johnson in 2016. And, it wasn't really until moving into the 2020 election that I got reactivated into politics. And so, I was just kind of living my life, trying to make a little bit of money, but the reason I was bringing this up is because I had this realization that this is a random statistic pulled out of my ass, but 80% of my daily experience of freedom has nothing to do with the government. It has to do with the quality of my relationships, my family, the work I do. Does that align for me? The, freedom that I have personally, like the autonomy that I have, where I live geographically and financially. I was like, those things impact me feeling free a lot more than a lot of the government stuff. And so,
yeah, it's rarely something actually directly taken from you.
Yeah. I mean,
but we do have our Wacos and our Ruby Ridges and our, you know what I mean? And our Killdozers and,
but just as most people are just
right,
sort of like, most people have a lot more oppression in their lives from their own personal circumstances. Let me put it that way. Like what you wake up in the morning.
Darn right. They are victims. Yes.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that in a way of like, hey, you losers. No, it's like, just wake up to the fact that when you wake up in the morning, a lot of times the thing that you're feeling the most oppressed about has nothing to do with the government. It has to do with your health, your fitness, your money in the bank.
Bad decision you made. That
exactly.
Worst decisions. Yeah. I'm
exactly. And so I was just focusing on trying to get that in order for myself. Right. And I feel like largely, yes, I have. And then I got sucked kind of back into politics in 2020 when I started paying attention to Trump. And then, and again, I came late to Trump in 2020. I was like, I'm going to vote for Trump, but I didn't love him and I didn't know anything about MAGA. And I ended up when the election returns started coming in 2020, I was just sort of like that's interesting. Oh, there's a weird water leak. What's that? Why'd they shut down the account? Whatever. And I just thought, that's interesting. And about 2 weeks later, I found myself in Georgia with a documentary crew following the Stop the Steal movement because I saw this whole thing happening that I was like, this feels like Tea Party Part 2, but a little less establishment. And I didn't know that much about MAGA. And I was curious of what happened with the election. And I was like, let me go see if I can connect with these guys. So I did. I got connected with the guy who was running it, Ali Alexander. And I was like, hey, we're going to come film with you. Is that cool? He's like, yeah, if you're not going to do a hit piece. And we did it for 2 days. And then he's like, you guys want to come to Florida? And it's like, I went there and I'm having dinner and martinis with Roger Stone. I'm like, this is weird. And then all of these
That's
events.
gotta be. Wait, martinis with Roger Stone. Did the pinky get extended? Did you guys drink with the pinkies extended? You have to, right?
I don't remember. I do know that Roger makes a mean pasta. That's all I can tell you. The sauce was solid.
Oh man, it's like al dente, that perfect bite. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, so and he's got the tattoo of Nixon on his back, like that's real.
It's like Jar Jar Binks and Nixon. Is that?
Yeah, it's crazy. So I just found myself in this weird universe of, this is the hardcore MAGA who thinks the election is stolen. This is what's going on. Started interviewing a bunch of people. We're at a bunch of rallies, and it led me to being, filming on January 6th. Because that was the last hurrah of the Stop the Steal movement, was the January 6th rally. And so, it was just kind of by happenstance.
So you were on the grounds, on the actual grounds, correct?
Yeah.
With press credentials, I would assume, of some sort?
Oh, no, absolutely not. I mean.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure. Yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit about
I had credentials from the Stop the Steal organization. I had all access pass, but not real press, right? But I was making a documentary. I had like 4 people with cameras rolling around. I had some guys who were doing some filming for me, got tear gassed on the Capitol lawn. I never went on the Capitol lawn. And I never went into the Capitol. And that's
smart.
why I never got arrested. But, January 6th was just it was just another Stop the Steal rally as far as we were concerned, because that's what it was. It was kind of the last hurrah. A lot of people were like, this is the last speech Trump's going to make as president. And, the way this all went down was I was making a film about Stop the Steal. I was like, I got a documentary here. And during that time, I met just a lot of different characters. We were all over. We were in Phoenix. We were in Florida. We were in, Georgia. And during that time, we had interviewed and met a guy. His name was Jacob Chansley. This was back in December. And so when we're there on January 6th and the pictures start coming out with the Q shaman with the horns and the face paint, my filmmaking partner hits me up. He's like, dude, Jake is in the Senate. It was the same guy we had already interviewed and we had met. And we're like, holy cow, this is amazing. And so we texted him, because we had his phone number.
Wait,
and
so
we're like,
texting while he's in the Senate?
It was after he got out.
Okay.
But
okay, got it.
Yeah,
crazy still.
But we're like, hey, do you want to tell us what happened? Let's do an interview. And so we sat down and interviewed him on the morning of January 7th before he left DC, and he told us the whole story, hour and a half. And we're like, this is crazy what happened. And he left and was arrested 48 hours later. And I was like, wow, we have the only interview with the face of January 6th. Now we have a movie, right? And so I spent
for people who don't know, the Q shaman guy is the guy with the American flag painted on his face, buffalo helmet with the horns. He has 2 names, Jake and Jacob. It's Jacob Angeli and Jake Chansley, or Jake Angeli and Jacob Chansley, right?
Yes,
I was getting mixed up, but he's got
and you've met him, he's
I met him. Yeah,
he's a pretty chill dude.
It's like he's on a mushroom trip all day. It feels like.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. I'm not that is not a criticism. He just seems.
It's a nice way to go through life if you could pull it off.
Zen zone. Yeah, I wish I could be functional that way all day. So. But he seemed, and look, if you've seen footage, he's thanking everyone. He is on the PA speaker, thanking the police for their work and all their effort. Like, the dude was he was, to your point, harmless.
Yeah. So, and we knew that, he told us his story. And when he told us his story, the footage had not started coming out for the Capitol. So when he's like, I went through an open door, he's like, there was a guy who tried to steal muffins from the break room. And I told him, no, don't steal the muffins. We don't steal. And I was like, this is ridiculous. This is not what happened,
It's
and he's like,
comical. Yeah, like it's a joke.
Yeah. And he's like, oh yeah, the Capitol Police escorted me around. I'm like, what? And so it all seemed like a complete tall tale. And then the footage started coming out and I'm like, holy cow, he's telling the truth. And so we felt like we had a great story. So we had meetings with Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, A&E, these executives. We're like, we got this footage, we got this story. And this is just a week after January 6th, not even, it was days after. And there was interest, but they were like, we're not going to platform the Osama bin Laden of Jan 6. And so we're like, okay, fine. He's not, but whatever. We posted a trailer on YouTube.
The platform, though, the dreaded platform.
Yeah. And this is
like
2021.
In the future.
We're in the heart of it,
we'll
right?
Nick soon, but come on, platforming now. Come
Yeah.
on, this is such horse shit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, pardon my French.
No. It's great. It's true. And it's like, it's funny. We've come a little ways since then. And, but yeah, so,
and then we come full circle as well, because it's the same side that was talking about being platformed or not being platformed is now the one calling to deplatform people.
Yeah, exactly. Like, get rid of Tucker
thing.
Carlson, you know?
Right,
It's like,
right.
What do you mean? What do you mean? I don't understand. No, we should not be listening to Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes is an anti-Semite. He just
exactly.
That's what he is.
That's a solid Mark Levin, bro.
Yeah, I got a Levin, I got Shapiro. It's like a mix of the two.
I can goddamn do my life.
All right, now we got
better than that. That's bullshit. What are you talking about?
Now we're living hardcore.
I can do my Alex Jones too. I got Alex Jones here. He's gonna go hang out with Nick Fuentes and yay.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I got them all, man. Anyway.
Well, and you know, this is where I first brushed up with cancellation, because we posted a trailer for the film on YouTube. I think it was like January 12th. It got like 9,000 views in a couple hours. And we were like, oh my gosh, this has got some legs. And I put it on Twitter and on Facebook. And within hours of each other, account shut down. And I was like, what? This is crazy. And I'm just a random dude, by the way. I didn't have a big following. I'm just like a random filmmaker. And the film wasn't like glorifying violence. It's like clips of the freaking shaman just like being the shaman. And that started my whole cancellation journey. I was like, I am banned from social media. Nobody will buy this film. This is crazy. And so I went on a journey to just independently produce it. And that film is called American Shaman. It's on Amazon and Apple. I may be releasing it
later.
Yeah. And if people follow me at Jason Rink on X, I'm likely going to release it for free in the lead up to January 6th. Because at this point, I'm not going to make any money back from the film. It's cool, guys. It almost made me broke, but
what do you mean? Jake can start an OnlyFans account. I'm sure he could look good. And
yeah, that he could. Yeah, it's good. He didn't make any money from it either.
He can subsidize it for you.
Yeah. So that was the deal. And I was in the canceled wilderness for a while. And
it's awful.
You know, when I was there, just because I had built my business and I built clients in my business, my production company business that are mostly right wing or right of center, they thought what I did was cool. I didn't lose any business because I did a film. I was at January 6th. I didn't lose any clients. So I was very fortunate, right? This has a lot to do with how you architect your life, if you can, to sort of make yourself anti-fragile, right? And so I didn't have to stop talking about what I was talking about. Nobody cared for the most part. And so I was able to keep making the film because I was like, it hasn't really impacted my income. I do want to tell this story. So I continued to tell that story and worked on it for a number of years. But yeah, it was in the context of that I met Ali Alexander, that I first met Nick Fuentes. I didn't know who he was. And in 2020, I first met him and saw him speak. And, that leads me to, eventually driving Ye to the Alex Jones show for his I Love Hitler interview, which is another stop on the journey. But I don't know. Do you have any thoughts or anything you want to discuss that I don't want to just steamroll you, brother?
No, I'm loving this. No, this is like literally this show should be called Tangents because I could talk for 8 hours about everything. I mean, like I said, I talk with Michael Jackson's oldest nephew for 3 hours. I talk with Jeff Hester, the Hubble telescope guy, for 4.5 hours, man. It's just how it is. Like, it's a time warp. You snap. Look, we're already 50 minutes in, man. I'm grateful for your time. How much more time do you have? I don't want to be, greedy of your time as well. And if Chad has any questions, put up some questions, guys.
Yeah. And like, I got some time. We booked a little bit of time here, baby. So we're fine.
So I loved it because it's been 3 years. not to the day, but you posted 3 years ago. You picked up 2 gentlemen from an airport and took them to this gentleman's place where he sat down and talked with these 2 guys for about a few hours. Had a great time. I'd love to hear the fly on the wall in that car ride. I just can't even imagine just the hang. Like,
Yeah.
Like, just tell everybody, because I don't even know if people know who we're talking about, but I just love for you to share that. Someone, I think Piers brought it up 3 years ago, even, because they're talking about him again, because that shitty fucking interview with him and Nick was, I mean, come on, Piers.
Yeah.
Dude, come on. Try that old journalism bullshit with these new kids. They will eat your lunch, man, all day long. They will. So anyways, right, go ahead.
Here's the story of how I ended up driving Ye to the Alex Jones show with Nick Fuentes and Ali Alexander in my back seat. Okay. So first I want to say, when I was on the Stop the Steal tour and I first saw Nick Fuentes speak, he was just doing rallies. Okay. I didn't know who he was. And we were in front of the governor's mansion in Georgia, and he had done an impromptu rally there. Hundreds of people out in front of the governor's mansion, bullhorn off the dome for like 45 minutes to an hour. And I was like, this is one of the most articulate speakers I've ever seen be able to just like break it down. I was like, this guy's going places. I don't know anything about him. This is 2020. And so had just got introduced to him. And then, as we kept filming and we went through our sort of cancellation journey and whatever, we developed a relationship with Nick because he had $500,000 seized from his account and was put on a no-fly list as a result of January 6th, but he was not charged with a crime. And I was like, that's an interesting story. Number one, that's an interesting story that anybody who cares about civil liberties should care about. And I thought it was particularly interesting because I was like, people hate this guy, but you got to be able to be like, yeah, I don't like Nick, but no, the government shouldn't do that to anyone. Right. I thought that was like a dunk message. And so,
right. And here's a great example. I mean, it's not the perfect correlation, but it's like, we bombed the boat, 2 survivors. Did we charge them with the crime for the drugs? No, we sent them back to their sovereign nations. I'm like, then why the fuck did we bomb him in the first place?
Right. Exactly.
That's where I'm at, Yeah. It's kind of like that for me. It's like, has no crime, he's done no sentence, committed no crime. And yet they punish him literally to every extent of a law that he didn't, commit.
Yeah. So we made a documentary. We ended up talking to Nick. We're like, hey, we just want to make a documentary kind of about you and like, what's up? And that is on YouTube, by the way. It's called The Most Canceled Man in America. It's got about 400,000 views or whatever now. You can find it there for free. And we did that in like 2022. And so we made that film, and that got me into a lot of trouble as well. But we didn't want to make the film that it was like, here's all the bad things Nick said. We were like, let's do a little bit more of a,
like, within the context of the entire scope of the person. Wow, what a shock. Give a full spectrum look. Right?
We went to his event called AFPAC. We were like, what's going on with this movement? And at that time, I was like, I think people should not be trying to marginalize this guy and cancel him because he does have a passionate following. There are things that he is saying that is resonating with the under 30s. And he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. Nobody wanted to hear that. Everybody wanted to be like, no, let's just get rid of him. Let's not talk to him. And so we'll get back to that. But in that process, we got to know Nick. I already knew Ali Alexander. Ali and Ye have been friends for a long time. And Nick ended up getting introduced to Ye, and Ye basically brought him onto a campaign to potentially run for president. Ye was going to run for president. I
remember that
in the 2024 election. And so what happened was Ali called me up. He said, hey, Jason, can I borrow your truck? I'm going to pick up Ye to go to the Alex Jones show. And I was like, how about I just drive my truck and you guys ride along? And he's like, that's cool. Cause he was going to introduce me to him anyway. And I was like, look, Ali, you're just going to be on your phone the whole time. You don't want to be driving. So I was like, I'll just be your driver.
You don't want to be driving and I get to fucking drive Ye places. What are you talking about, man? Are you fucking kidding me?
So
I would buy a new car if I needed to get the Uber ride to do that.
He hit me up because I had a nicer vehicle. He's like, I don't want to pick up Ye in my jalopy. I was like, that's fair, dude. So we ended up picking up Ye at the private airport in Austin and in the evening, and he comes rolling off with Nick, and they hop in the back seat of the car. And it was just funny. Like, he got in the car, and like the first thing he wanted to do is he wanted to go stop off at the Waffle House right next to the airport. And I was like, we're going to roll into the Waffle House with Ye. Like, how long is that going to work before we're inundated with like people coming out there with their cell phone?
Ye wanted it or Nick wanted it?
Ye wanted it. Ye was like, I want to go to the Waffle House. We're like, all right. And I'm like, okay, Ye, let's go to the Waffle House. And so like we stop at the Waffle House. He rolls in. I think he had his hood on, that mask on, but then when he sat down, he took it off. He's looking at the menu, and the waitress is like, oh my God. And in 90 seconds, we left. Where he's like, we're out of here. So
yeah,
we rolled over.
I have a funny story about that. I met Coolio, at the Luxor on the second floor of the Luxor. You know where it's all games and like arcades and stuff before the walk across to Mandalay? Yeah. He was in line at McDonald's. He was in line at McDonald's. It was like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. I'm going to Nathan's to get a hot dog. And we see him and I walk up to him and I go, do you know who you are? And then he was like with this huge mother effer, right? Big, like obviously security guy. I look up at him. I go, does he know who he is? And I go, what are you doing at the McDonald's? And it's the same thing. It just makes me think, he's like keeping it real. And I'm like, oh my God. And I took a picture with him and it was great. It was the coolest experience.
Bro, he wants a Big Mac, bro. And it's like, he wants a Big Mac. He wants a
Big Mac. Let the man have a quarter pounder with cheese, for God's sake.
Can he do it in peace? Yeah. So
can he have a Happy Meal with the toy? Come on.
Yeah, it's funny. So, he's like globally recognized. So we go to his hotel and we ended up hanging out that night, and he talked all about the campaign he wanted to run. Talked about and Nick was going to run it and Ali was going to be a part of it. But that night he also talked about this joke he wanted to do. He was talking about Netanyahu. And so he's like, I want to talk about Netanyahu, but I want to get a net and a yoo-hoo as props on Alex Jones. And we're like, okay, whatever. And I didn't really think he was that serious about it. So we hang out for a little while.
Crazy genius creativity, man. That's
100%. And when he's off his meds, that's what he is, right? Like I think that's why he doesn't like to take them. They like get him, him real subdued. Yeah.
Do you still talk with him at all? Not to shut off. Okay, yeah. Because I think there's been some stuff that they did to him, obviously. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, and he was like, he had not. The Jones show the next day is the most like over the top Hitler stuff he did, right? Prior to that,
it was just over the top. Yeah, completely.
Yeah. And so
that's just objectively speaking, by the way. That is no judgment or all. That's just subjective.
Yeah. And I do have a perspective on why that went down, but like we part ways, and the next morning I'm going to pick him up. And so the truth is I do have GoPro footage from the photo that I've shared is from the GoPro. We recorded all of the conversation on the way over to the Jones studio. And, he had a stop. I actually, on my credit card, bought the orange net that he holds up in the Alex Jones show, because I go to a sporting goods store to pick that up. And so we roll into the Jones studio, and he puts his mask on before he walks in. See, Jones has not seen him with his mask off. Jones is instantly not happy about it. And Ye refuses to take it off the entire interview.
Yeah, and I saw that even the beginning was already contentious. You could see him being like, get that goddamn thing off your face. What are you doing covering your goddamn face? I'm just being.
Yeah, during the breaks, every break, Jones is like, all right, now we're going to take the mask off, right? So, but and so he got on there and he did his rant. And I think it's interesting because Ye was like the first man through the wall in a way on the issue of Israel and the influence of Israel on our political system. I really think anybody who is glad that conversation's being happening openly needs to thank Ye, because I think I think he was pulling off a bit of performance art in the moment. And he was sort of like, look, am I cancelable or am I non-cancelable? And by the way, like, why is this the thing that you're going to get canceled for? Like, why is saying I love Hitler the line, right? Why isn't, there's no other line but that's the line. And so I think I do think he has a lot of very interesting thoughts about all this, and the way that he sees like the hypocrisy of the cancellation machine, the media, all of that. He had already experienced like, some cancellation at that point. And so I think that's like a seminal
was it right
interview.
after DEFCON 3? Was that
Yes.
right after the DEFCON 3?
Yeah.
So
and that's
Adidas and everything else, right?
Yes, exactly. So he had already lost that, right? And he was like,
yeah. So imagine where he's at. Like, look at Nick's attitude, obviously, with him being, treated the way he was.
Yeah. So I think he was the first man through the wall at making, hey, we're going to talk about Israel in this country and the influence of AIPAC and all of that stuff. I think he was kind of the first man through the wall. He took a lot of the arrows for it. And so
I think Michael Jackson was an earlier adopter, actually. Michael Jackson and Prince and a couple others.
Yeah.
And, there was I think they faced some, we saw the scrutiny they faced as they were going through their stuff. So yeah, but Ye, clearly. And then you look at his relationship with Candace, and I don't know when that was, but that cultivates clearly Candace carrying the torch for that and seeing that, and the way Ye's been treated by his constituents and the people that he's basically made billionaires, or at least multi-millionaires.
Yeah. So that was it. I've got a little documentary that's sort of brewing. I kind of want to do a doc that's kind of about that story, right? Like, I want to go.
I think that would be cool.
I want to interview Jones and like Owen and Harrison, the guys who were there. I want to go back and like interview Nick about it. And we've got a lot of footage we haven't released. And I think it would be interesting to make a doc that's sort of about some of like how it catalyzed a conversation in the country, and about cancellation or whatever. But who knows if that'll ever get made.
That sounds like something you could. That sounds like an Anthem Fest type submission, really.
Yeah,
that'd be an interesting one.
I have lots of ideas. I
like it.
So, but yeah,
more ideas and not enough. To be honest, I'd rather have more ideas than not enough.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, I'd rather have ideas you don't get done than ones that you don't even have,
Yeah. So I think it's interesting, and it's been quite a journey. And, like a lot of people now, I was very pro-Trump, and the Maha Alliance leading up to 2024.
Yeah.
I didn't want to black pill. I saw
what's
a lot
wrong with that. What is wrong with Maha? Like, literally make America healthy again. I mean, come on. What are you gonna?
And I had a lot of hope for like RFK and Tulsi, and I was a Doge supporter, and I think if you look at the campaign, there's a lot of people who are like, yeah, you got fooled again, and it's like, I supported Trump in 2024 with my eyes open. I saw what he did in 2016, how he filled it with a bunch of neocons and a bunch of dopes, and I think
Bolton.
Yeah, exactly.
Pompeo,
yeah,
Haley. Yeah.
And so I think a lot of us we're sort of like, look, this is going to be the moment to see if like him almost getting assassinated and realizing he was surrounded by a bunch of terrible people in 2016 makes a difference. And I think the answer right now is like, not really. Like,
actually it is. It actually solidified that they will kill him if he gets out of line. But
yeah, that's true. That's true. It was the wrong lesson.
More of a confirmation for him.
Yeah. It was the wrong lesson that he took from that. So, I stand with the people who are like, I think his handling the Epstein files was like a colossal unforced error, a total blunder. I'll never regret supporting Trump because he pardoned the J6ers. I was a big proponent of that for many years. And Ross Ulbricht, like the freedom of individuals is important, and especially people who value freedom. And I think most of the J6ers who were thrown in jail, and Ross specifically, like, are all people who understand freedom, value freedom, And I think them being free is a win. And so, you know, where do we go from here? I'm not sure. I really think Trump's, you know, he's done. Like, we're moving into the midterms. Nobody's going to do anything radical. The Republicans, I think, are going to lose the midterms. They're going to lose bad. And he's not going to be able to get anything else done. I wonder if it's so bad
that JD Vance is tainted. I'm talking strategically. If I were a Republican, if I were RNC, I'd be very strategically concerned that he's getting some stink off of Trump.
Well, and I think the way to understand what's happening right now with the Tucker, Nick Fuentes whole situation is this is actually about trying to sideline Vance. See, the loudest voices who want Turning Point to say Tucker is a bad person and Heritage to say Tucker's a bad person is because they want Rubio or Ted Cruz to be the nominee. They don't want Vance. They're never Trumpers. They've always hated Trump. And I'm not even saying that Vance is a legit MAGA guy, because he was a never Trumper too.
He was a never Trumper, right?
Yeah.
But like, and see, I'm concerned about the ties with Palantir and Teal and just the overlap with Ellison's and buying all the TikToks and the CBS's with Barry Weiss.
Oh, yeah.
Like, all this stuff is just absolutely, it's like for you and I, it's like once you it takes a while to deprogram. It hurts. But when you do, you start it's the Matrix. You see the code. You just see like blonde, brunette, redhead. Like you literally see the code behind it. And it's like, oh, every story's the same. It's just how they're going to manufacture it this time, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So the real battle right now that's playing out in real time is how to prevent JD Vance from becoming the president, because they aren't comfortable with him. They don't like him.
Right. Rubio is clearly the one that they want. He clearly wants Venezuela to fall so Cuba can fall. And by the way, everyone who complains about the Venezuelans in America, thank you, Marco Rubio, for keeping them here when he co-signed a bill with Eric fucking Menendez, everybody. You know, gold bar in his pocket from Egypt, Eric, and the cash with his embroidered shirt, Eric. That guy. That's who he worked in bed with to keep Venezuelans here, to try to destabilize that country and then blame the Venezuelans for being here. Yeah.
Welcome. He's playing
welcome
the long
to your government,
game,
everybody.
you know?
Yeah. No, I know. I'm just saying, like, welcome to your government, everybody. Like, all you have to do is have a little bit more than a goldfish memory, and all this stuff just crumbles because they all contradict themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's how to make sense of that, is that Vance is absolutely like a creation of the tech bros and all of that stuff. And
he is well spoken. I mean, he speaks well. I didn't know Tim Walz, I didn't know Vance, but when I thought the debate, I thought Tim Walz would actually do okay, and it obviously clearly was not the case.
Yeah,
it was like, it totally flipped me on I was like, wow, JD's pretty eloquent. He carries a message pretty well.
And growing a beard was key for him, by the way. So
I bet.
All of us without a strong jawline need to have a beard game.
He's got that weird chin, right? That soft chin or whatever that.
Yeah, exactly. So
fall away.
So I mean, going into the next election, not that, I mean, I don't care that much anymore is the truth of the matter, but like at the end of the day, I think I
don't either.
Yeah, I do think that Vance represents the only clear hope that we have right now. Like Rand Paul, I don't know that he's got the aspirations for it, but I would like to see.
And Massey doesn't want it either. I'm pretty certain. Yeah,
and this is one thing that's true when you look at the history of presidential candidates. You're going to be hard pressed to find very many congressmen who didn't become senators or governors first who won the presidency. It's very rare. It's
or
true
join
with Ron Paul.
Like the cabinet in some way, like Secretary of State.
Yeah, exactly. And I think most of the people are surrounding Trump right now, like the Rubios of the world, they're only in the cabinet because it helps them to achieve what they want to do, is become president. And everybody knows how quickly Rubio will become like the worst guy as the president. It'll happen.
He's already the worst as a nobody. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Like he's said some things since he's initially when he was with Trump, that's like, oh, maybe he's like a little bit better than we thought he was. It's like, no,
he weaseled in ways. You could smell it. You're like, no, he's not.
Yeah.
Genuine. He's not.
So the bottom line, bro, is what do we got to do? We gotta support our local podcasters. We got to support our local communities of liberty-minded people. We got to form our own networks. We got to try to get ourselves as autonomous as we can and as free as we can in our own personal lives. Try to find work that you do, that you're passionate about, that you're good at, that can help you make some money. You got to try to make some money so that you can exit the debt slavery system that's happening all around us.
Debt is slavery, everybody.
Yeah.
Money is not the key to happiness. It's the best way to liberty, to at least make your own decisions or something. Like, it's the best key to pursue your happiness. Maybe it might be the best way to explain.
Yeah. It's very difficult to be truly free without it, is I've discovered. Like, and so to just take this on the total personal level, it's like, look, you got to stack Bitcoin, you got to stack assets, you got to try to be as anti-fragile when it comes to making income as possible, which means if you need to have multiple streams of income so that you're not at the mercy of the AI, taking your jobs or the next downsizing. That's what people really need to spend their time on if they're not there. Like, yes, should you go speak at your city council meeting, or should you vote, or should you whatever? I don't know, man. All I know is that you've got a lot more options if you're able to pull up your stakes and relocate and know that you're like, I can work from anywhere. If something gets bad somewhere, you can find another location that maybe is a little bit more friendly. We've got to figure out how to buy as much time as we can to become free personally for the people that we love. And then it's like, put your own mask on first, right? I think that's just true. Sometimes
I always say
too much on everything else. Yes.
No, I would say that be the liberty you want to see in the world. It's the only way to do it is to live it. Like, I'm trying to I know I work remotely, but I'm like in that point where I currently have means, but I don't, which is why I'm trying to transition to something like this. And this takes forever to build, but I'm willing to put in the equity and the time. That's what that's what I'm here to do, because that's what it takes. But yeah, you have to live the liberty you can't just talk about it. You have to actually just do it. And I think doing it, someone sees you do it, that inspires them to do it. That's really how it is. It's like a leadership by example more than it is telling people. It's not by commandment.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't wake up any morning and like dread my life, right? That's the most freedom I can have. And it's like, and is there more? Yeah, dude, I'd like to see a lot of things get better for a lot of other people. So I'm not just like some selfish bro, but what I can tell you is
it's not like you can do that though. You can't save the world. You can just lift your portion of it. You can only do your part.
What if we all did that? Then there's a lot less other people that need to get saved, right? And so it's like, we can do what we can to try to live a liberty-minded life, try to live a life of integrity that, we represent ourselves, consistently in the world, and we try to live by the code that we have. And then, do what we can with the platform that we have to try to influence other people. And it's like, we're not all going to have a huge platform. It's okay. Like, there's people we run into all the time. I think we're moving into the time frame of the multitude of small platforms. I think that a lot of stuff that's happening in media and tech right now is going to move people to hyper curated content, like content that speaks directly to me, because we're going to be able to find that and we're going to be able to produce that. And there's going to be more people producing that. And so we're going to be able to produce our own curated playlists of songs that we make. Like I make music with Suno AI, and it's like, I got playlists of stuff nobody else has ever heard. And it's like, I'm making content for myself. And it's like, I'll find other people who like that stuff and we'll come together, and maybe I'll get an audience, maybe I won't. But I think
there's a 60 minutes on Muzak back in the day. And there were two positions open for like they were there to pick songs to create moods in restaurants.
Yes.
And obviously AI totally takes that over now. But
Yeah.
imagine back then, like those two jobs were so coveted because I was one of those audiophiles, man. I just love listening to music. So you go to like a Mimi's Cafe and you got to get like a French Quarter theme. It's like, oh yeah, I can get the French horns and ba-ba-da-ba, you know, a little clarinet in there, you know, like, and you listen to all this cool music and you curate it for them. And now snap of a finger and you've got it all basically created for you. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So please continue. It's just a funny
No.
contrast to how that job is like one of those ones where AI is just literally removed
and
it.
Look, AI is not going away. And, you know, I think anybody who's I think people need to lean into technology. I think people need to lean into where the wave is going when it comes to creating wealth for yourself, right? And I don't think you have to sell your soul. I don't think you have to be like, you know, I'm going to become just a cog in the matrix. And yeah, okay, I'm going to make sure I have my thumbprint and face and profiling on everything or whatever. But privacy is an illusion, guys. Like, we have surrendered most of it voluntarily to participate in the, you know, the town square of social media. And so, you know, like, it's trade-offs.
We're volunteering our stuff for AI to curate off. I mean, literally, we're offering it with our speech. Like, it's so funny how, like, we talk about X being like less censorship. It's like, well, yeah, but you could also look at it as more data mining. I mean,
yeah.
like,
Look, one of the reasons that Elon Musk bought it, yes, he does support free speech, I believe, you know, more than any other.
Yeah, and right.
But he's also feeding all of that into his Grok framework. Like, it's data rich to be able to train what he's doing. So, but the point is like, at the end of the day, it's like, oh no, now we're in the digital prison. And it's like, okay, look, this is where we're at. This is the rules of the road. Like, I could choose. I think income tax is unconstitutional. I pay it voluntarily because I can have more impact on what I want to do in the world when I'm not in prison, right? The same thing is with technology. Look, I get it. Google this and Facebook that, whatever. And it's like, look, but do I want to have a voice in the town square? Like, yes, I do. I want to have a space where I can speak and where I can influence minds in the small way that I do. And it's like, that's the trade-off, right? So there's a lot of trade-offs. We're in a crazy world. I'm a Gen Xer, you know, like, I've seen the whole I didn't have an email in college.
What year born?
I was born in 74. So
me too. What month?
November.
No, okay, I was September. So I'm
a Scorpio, baby. But
all right, I'm a Libra, I think.
Yeah.
Like that.
So at the end of the day, I think, man, we need to discover more paths of freedom personally, exercise more freedom personally, orchestrate our own experience of the world in as free a way as possible. And that could take a long time, and get our own houses in order. And then from that space, we have a lot more power to go out and create the impact that we want to do. So I don't know.
That's the thing about it. Responsibility, accountability, right? Clean your room. I mean, look, this is what we're finding. We're finding that certain subjects break everyone. Given enough time, something's going to break you and you're going to lose all your credibility, right? So that's Peterson now with his current stance on certain things. But his earlier stuff, clean your room, some of the things, the chaos order, brilliant. Maps of meaning. Why can we not take the ideas? Why do we have to couple them to the people? Like, it's like I've never believed things, because like any attack on a belief is like attack on the person that holds it, you know? So it's like, why can't we just have exchange of ideas? I love that concept, exchange of ideas. That's such a, you know,
and all truth is, you know, truth. That's capital or lowercase, however you want it. But
whatever it is.
All truth is universal truth. We already own it, right? So we're in a world where people illuminate it for us, right? But it's not their truth, right? Anything true that Jordan Peterson pointed us to, that truth sits beyond him. It comes from the same place that having rights as a human being comes from, right? It comes from something beyond our, you know, meat suits. And everybody knows this. Like, everybody knows there's this intangible thing happening. It's non-material. It's the reason why ideas resonate with people that you've never met, and you can talk about
Why you have
things.
physical emotional reactions when you hear something. I mean,
exactly.
it is all that's connected. Yeah.
And we don't have to figure it's not important right now that we figure out where that came from or what it is. It's just you acknowledge that it's there. And then it frees you up to participate in and take truth that's universal and apply it to your life. And you're like, yeah, this is true. Like, I recognize this is true. On that note, this is just, I'll say this and then we'll see if there's anything more to be said. But like,
Yeah.
one of the things I talk about is the idea of being integral with your word. Integrity is about being your word as much as you can. So if I told you that I was going to be on your podcast this week, for me to be my word is that I actually show up at 5 minutes before when I said I would. And if not, I need to handle that in such a way that creates as little cost to you or to anything as possible. That's how I'm integral, right? Stuff happens.
Yeah.
Something might have happened and I couldn't be on here, but I would have handled it in the most integral way possible to honor my word, because I am my word in many ways. That's all we are. And
as a receiver of that, knowing who you are, it's my job to offer the grace that shit happens and then we reschedule.
Yeah. Right? But how much more power is there in our relationship if you know that you can count on me for my word? And how much better is it for us then to enter into an agreement, right? To contract together in a very libertarian way when I have a history of being my word. You have a history of being your word. And so much of what I think people who we want to live free and we want to be free and we want to have the government out of shit. It's like, hey, the most libertarian thing most of us can start doing is try to be our word, and for our word to be our bond and our contract as a man, as a human. And we all fail. It's fine. We all get that. But it's one of the things that I think was true about Ron Paul and why he had so much power. Ron Paul had deep integrity. He believed what he said and nobody denied that. People would say, I disagree with what he says, but I would meet people all the time who would say, you know, I don't agree with everything he says, but he sure believes it. And it's like, that is very powerful. You look at a guy like Thomas Massey. I think it's very true. Why is this congressman like have all this so much of a powerful influence that you've got Trump freaking red in the face trying to get rid of the guy? It's the power of integrity.
And he's trying to get rid of the one of 435.
Exactly. And he's not even close to the worst one, right? And it highlights the lack of integrity of the other party, by the way, of Trump. And so integrity is one of a new number of things that just as human beings, we can find power and we can find freedom in moving through the world in that way. And so, listen, I like to think about and talk about that stuff a lot of times more. It's like I said, it's all upstream. I hear a lot of people who are like, we just want the government out of our lives. It's like, hey, what if we conducted ourselves as people that don't actually need the government to rectify our problems? You know what I mean?
Right.
But how many libertarians have you met that you're like, hey, nice guy, I wouldn't do business with him? You know what I mean? It's like, and you could say that for Democrats and Republicans too.
Yeah, but that's because we're all autists, though. It's because we don't make eye contact and don't shake hands properly.
Yeah, but it's like, we're the ones, if anything, the most powerful thing we could do for our message is for us to be the people of the word, right? It's like, hey, bro, that libertarianism thing and that freedom thing, like, it actually can work, because I've experienced how these guys interact with each other. And it's like, wow, they're just like, that dude says he's going to do that thing and he does that thing and they don't even sign contracts half the time because they've got so much workability in the relationship. And it's like, I wouldn't even need to take you to court, because it's like, bro, we can work this out. Yeah, we got a third party. It's this homie. He's his word. He's going to be able to arbitrate between us with no bias. Because why? Because he's a homeboy and he's his word, right? And it's like, so the older I get, the more I go internal, and I'm like, most of the work to be done is right here and right here.
Oh, yeah. it's
man.
all to be done there. And then once again, you can maybe share how you got to your way of showing someone else, right? And then they can either adopt it or not. And like it is interesting though, because I find that reputation part a lot more Eastern, like Middle East is my word is my, you know what I mean? Like if their word was ruined, their reputation was ruined. I'm curious, and that's so powerful though too, because that is what this is I remember I've only been to 2 Freedom Fests. My first one, it wasn't that I was gate kept, but it's like, who's this new guy? Like, that's literally what it is. And who wouldn't? You got all these guys that have been there 15, 20 years in a row. And this guy who's like 50 shows up and they're like, who the fuck is this guy?
He's
a
little suspect. Right.
What are you, a Fed? You know what I mean? Like, seriously. So like the second time going, I was like,
that's a healthy instinct. We should think most people are feds the first time we meet them, but I digress.
We shouldn't even ask. You know, it should be the first question, right? So I remember that, and then, but the second one is like, oh my God, this dude came back. He's kind of for real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I went to the Ron Paul barbecue, a lot of crossover. Tom Woods at the first Freedom Fest. He missed the last one, but then he, you know, Dave Smith finally, and then Scott Horton and Liam McCullum and all these other cool, like Daniel McAdams. I mean, come on. The list goes on and on. I didn't get to meet Dr. Paul. That's, you know, whatever. I got to see him. He was great. Saw him in a distant Tulsi. Was there. Everybody. It was amazing. Such a great experience. But you just see it grow and they're like, oh, this dude's he came back. And they recognize that part much more. And that's really what it is because you can't have a community if the guy's never part of it. you know?
Yeah. So it's like, you know, I definitely, man, I encourage you to keep doing what you're doing. It's a grind. I know.
I love it. Yeah, it's worth it. My curiosity is boundless, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, I think a lot of times it's like the other thing in the age of AI, I think authenticity is going to make a big comeback. I think I'm
going to call it artisanal podcasting is what I'm going to call
artisanal podcasting. I like it.
Yeah.
It's good. It sounds more valuable too. And
it does. Well, it is. It's handcrafted. It's for real. It's not AI generated. So
I know, just like the whiskey, right? So it's like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I think people are going to, in a world of AI slop, I think real experiences and authenticity with other human beings is going to move towards a premium. People are going to crave it. And truth of the matter is that's where we thrive the most is like when you get together with real people in the flesh. Like this is true for me with like a guy like Nick Fuentes. It's like, I've met Nick, I've hung out with him. I've had dinner with him before or whatever. Like he's a friend of mine. And like anytime you meet another human being, even if they're so different than you, even if they disagree with you online, it's easy to freaking, you know, trash a person. Right. But when you're flesh to flesh, human being to human being, it's a totally different story. And so I think that's where we as people who love liberty, we should recognize that's where we thrive. That's where we build bridges is human to human many times. And this is a human to human type experience, but it's like realness, authenticity. I think that's going to start to become valuable. I think we're going to see a pendulum swing as the world becomes eaten by AI and curated fake experiences. So that's my white pill or whatever, you know, it's like,
I love it.
It's not over for the human beings yet. So anyway,
no.
Well,
authenticity is really, yeah. And I'm so grateful for your time. We're going to cut it here. We're an hour and a half in. You've been so gracious and perhaps this will open the door for other conversations and maybe, you know, talks with other people as well. So I'm just grateful for your time.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'll hit you up when I roll through Phoenix. I tend to go through there a couple of times a year.
Absolutely, man.
Good to hook up with you again. And
good places.
I'm a man of my word. So if I do, I will. So
absolutely, man. And I actually reached out to you when I was in Austin because I went to see Stephen Kellogg and David Ryan Harris. I don't know if you know those guys.
Did you go to a comedy show or a music show?
Concert. I went to I went to both, but I went to Ian Edwards at the Comedy Mothership on Saturday.
Yes,
and then a concert. Okay. Yeah. And
I recall you saying that. Yeah.
What happened was, good.
I was just gonna say, please feel free to hit me up anytime. I'm pretty hard to pin down sometimes on like actually hooking up with people when they come into town. just because I've got a lot going on. But please hit
Yeah,
me up if you're ever
absolutely.
coming again, because I always
I
like to
appreciate it.
try to get together with people if they do roll into town. It's a good town. I
We
like
will,
it
and
here.
I love that. I mean, we went to Commodore and went to some of the amazing eateries. Oh my God, it was ridiculous. So I'm a foodie, so it'd be great to
it's a good
connect and
town for
just
that,
hang.
bro.
Yeah,
Well,
just,
cool.
just
It's
I mean, 6th Street for the energy, man. Just people watching's worth.
yeah, it's good. And we've had a lot of people come to town, and I live outside of the city of Austin, so I have access to it when I want to for what it offers, and I also live outside of the grasp of Travis County. Let's put it that way.
Right.
So, but yeah, I'm bullish on Texas. I think Texas is a little more hat than cattle when it comes to certain freedom issues. We've got some work to do there, but all in all, good place, and I like it here, and I'd probably be here for a while. So anyway, thanks for having me on, bro. This has been a good fun time. And
thank you again, man. I really appreciate it. And I hope we can talk offline at some point. Well, we've got an outro, but stick around. Before we go, just if you could just name some of the documentaries you're at and everything, just so we can have that for everybody.
Yeah.
Jason Rink, thank you again for joining, man. It was awesome.
Yeah.
I wish Jake could have made it. I wish Jake could have been here.
Yeah, well, hit me up on X. Jason Rink is my handle. I finally got it back after over 1,700 days of being banned from it. So I got that handle back, Jason Rink. And my documentary, American Shaman, is on Apple and on Amazon. I have a film called J6, A True Timeline, which is on my X account. You can find that, which is a forensic breakdown of what happened on January 6th. And then I have a film that I produced called The Most Canceled Man in America about Nick Fuentes. That's on YouTube. And I've got the Nullification documentary, which if you dig far enough, you can find that. And so anyway, that's where you'll find me. And also, Ron Paul, Father of the Tea Party, a book I wrote on the life of Ron Paul, is on Amazon. So I think I've covered all of my plugs that I could possibly have at this point.
Well, once again, man, like I said, it's been so great. And to just speak to the community from the Freedom Fest and the barbecue and things like that. I've connected with so many amazing people, and it's just growing. I know I'm on the cusp, man. I'm just telling you right now, I'm like right there. I'm right there. It's gonna go. So I'm just grateful. But thank you again, everyone. Jason Rink. This has been another If by Whiskey. Jake will be there. We're recording Mark Maresca's White Pill Box tomorrow, but it's not airing tomorrow. But we're gonna record it. Everyone, thank you so much. Have a safe night, everybody. Take care. I'm flying to Philly. Have a good one, everyone.
Subscribe to If by Whiskey. Fuck Liberty Lockdown. Subscribe to this show.
No, come on!